The Joe Rogan Experience.
When you look back at yourself then, does that even seem like you?
Yeah, why not?
I mean, it's just, I mean, of course it is you. But I mean, the young, hulking you smashing guys.
This was also just the one round, correct?
Yes.
Like a 17-minute round?
Yeah, there's no rounds.
Was it, did they have a time limit on any of the fights?
No, and I would have won that fight if Big John McCarthy wouldn't have stuck his melon in between us and break us up. You know, that's how you were talking about how they fix the fights and everything. He broke this fight up. There were no rules, not supposed to do. Look, he's breaking us up. Why did he do that?
Why did they do that?
Yeah.
Were people booing?
Yeah, that was all John McCarthy. Why did he break us up?
I don't know. Like, what were the rules back then?
There were no rules. All they had to do was give him a track starting gun, and he could stand there and go boom, and that's all he needed to do.
He just had to start the fight.
And
so this restart was just completely because of him.
Yes,
because of Big John McCarthy.
Yes, he's corrupt and he's a crook. His idea of what he thinks fighting is. And he's a full-on Oleg O submission guy because he's all into technique. I don't know this. He's never said it to me. But he's all into skill and everything else. He has no respect for fighters' fortitude or anything like that.
You don't think he does?
No.
I think he does.
Well,
I mean, I think you have like a personal dispute with him, but I like Big John. And
you might like him, but... he leveraged his made-up persona, Big John, to get me kicked out of the show. Him and his wife, they got me literally kicked out of the show.
You kicked out of the UFC?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What year was this?
Very early.
Why would they want to get you kicked out of the UFC?
Because he does not like me. He's a cop, and he doesn't like the fact that I'm probably in his eyes a thug. But the point is, he has a bee in his mind. He's never liked me. He was a Jiu-Jitsu student before he started in the thing. They for the Gracies, they didn't have a ref. So Art Davey goes, hey, what about that big guy, Big John? And then Big John was a cop and everything. And he did background checks on me before I got into the UFC. Like, oh yeah, no, this guy he's got a record. I've been arraigned at least 7 times for beating people up. And shit was hitting the fan. It was getting bigger and more. You're gonna get in trouble pretty soon. Thank God I had a great attorney and He was a guy that could point out the truth, and people would see that, and the DA would go, okay, community service. I'd go do that at the boxing gym. So anyway, so John checked into it, and he goes, no, this guy really is a street fighting legend like Tank Murdoch. And obviously the guy's dad was a cop, and that underlying it doesn't matter, but he did not like the fact that I came along after the Gracies because he was like a stooge for Gracie, Jiu-Jitsu, and the whole 9 yards. And when I came along, I kind of said, no. Fighting is emotional, and it's not a skill. It's not a skills match. It's what you have in your head. And he obviously doesn't have anything in his. But so at Puerto Rico, I used to go around to dojos and go in there after I'd cruise around drinking a 12-pack in my van. And we'd pull up to dojos and walk in there and go, does anybody want to fight? And nobody did. And so I lost my train of thought on that. But, this is it. Okay, so when I was working out with weights, and I wasn't a strong day for me. So you have to know when to say, no, I'm not lifting today. So I felt compunction and I needed to go do something. I said, let's go check this jiu-jitsu place out. They had flyers at the Westminster boxing gym where I was boxing after I left that Bakersfield thing. So we go in there, and all the other kung fu and Wing Chungs and all that stuff, no one ever wanted to fight me. And I go, let's go check out this jiu-jitsu thing, see if it's real or not. And this guy's supposed to be a world champion and all this. And since it's out there, I'll say who it was, but it was Alon Goes. And so he's supposed to be some world champion, this and that. And at this time, we're totally green, didn't have really respect for jiu-jitsu or anything like that. And I was with Paul Herrera and Eddie Reese, who are very accomplished wrestlers. And I go, let's go check it out. I'm not lifting. Let's go see if this stuff is for real. So we go into the jiu-jitsu thing, and it was a little bit of a drive. We get in there, and I say, hey, we want to roll around with you, check this stuff out. And they're Portuguese. Oh, demonstration. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck is this? Anyways, so one of the guys goes in the back. I guess they put cameras up in these little mirrored boxes, the one-way mirror things. And so Eddie gets up there, and he's a little guy. And so it didn't take him very long to tap him out with like an arm thing. And then Paul, who's is a All-American from Nebraska wrestler, bigger guy, like 190-ish. He gets in there, and I'm like going, what the hell's going on? Because they're lasting, and he's on his back. And at that time, I was like, what are you on your back for? It's stupid,
Yeah.
You're totally ignorant of what was going on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy fuck. He ended up tapping him out. And I'm like going, wow, he made short work of Eddie, and he tapped out Paul. And I had respect for Paul for his wrestling abilities and where he'd gone and trained and wrestled for. And I was like, holy smokes. Well, I'm rather large and very powerful. And Alon Goes is not. And so I go, okay. Oh, and they were starting on their knees and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, whatever. So I get on him, and I had because the medical place, the cut and sew place, I had a scrub on. So I'm on top of him, and he grabs like a nurse's scrub because they don't rip or anything like that. And he does like an X on his thing, and he starts choking me. And I look at him, like, kind of roll my eyes, like, really? Like, I went like that, like, fists on both sides of his face, And he's like, oh, okay. And so we rolled around. And then he finally got to an arm lock. And like I said, I was doing curls with, like, 120-pound dumbbells and stuff like that. And so I picked him up. Basically, he was like a foot off of the mat, and I raised my right hand up and made a fist like, you want me to fall down on his eyes got huge as the moon. No. And I'm like, okay. So I let him down and let it go. And he was like I've had enough of this big guy here. And so we left, and whatever goes on in somebody's head, like, oh, who's that guy? Almost in a narcissistic way. Oh, I got him in an arm lock. I would have used him for it doesn't matter. Anyway,
Pile drived him in.
Yeah, there would have been a whole bunch of bad for him.
Getting slammed.
Yeah, so Puerto Rico, I don't know. Paul was fighting in that show. It was David versus Goliath there.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Uh-huh.
Did he fight Big Daddy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Big Daddy had a videotape of him, so he knew exactly what to do with that high crotch.
Mm.
That was all staged, not staged, but prepared. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Alon Goes comes up afterwards. Oh, this is all the way full circle back to John. So Alon Goes comes up after Paul gets elbowed. Why Big John didn't stop it, who knows? I know. But anyways, so he starts mouthing off. I mean, he must have had too much alcohol or something. And I'm like, who do you think you're talking to? And, like, really? Or you were going to go there? Okay. So he had like him and all his friends were behind him. So I popped him and was going after him. And me and Eddie were fighting the whole contingency of Brazilian fighters in the audience. And then we go to the back and old school warrior, and like, no one sends you to the hospital. And I'm telling Paul, hey, fuck that. You're not going to the hospital. You don't do that. And he's like, huh? And there was a Dr. Istergo and John McCarthy and his wife, Elaine, who is Karen, I think her name should be Karen, is Elaine McCarthy. Anyways, she comes running up and starts pointing her finger in my face and saying, get the hell out of here, I'll kill you. Just hyperbole in the moment, charged type thing. They try to make a huge move out of that, and then...
Oh, so that's how you get kicked out.
And then John's like telling Bob, I'm going to quit, and Elaine's going to quit, and if you don't kick him out, that's why I didn't go to the show. And mind you, I was the personality of that whole show at that time, and I think they went to Detroit or something like that after that words, and everybody's like, where's Tank at? There's the show. And Bob's like, we got to fix this. And so somehow a letter came up of apology to their leverage of they were going to quit. I'm like, who cares if they quit? He's just he's a referee. He pulls the trigger on a gun and then he affects fights by breaking people up and giving people chances and everything else. He's a corrupt person. And who cares? But I guess Bob was leaning into the fact like, oh, he's developed a personality for himself. So anyways, we're going to have this letter made, and we'll send it to the McCartneys, and then they can be soothed, and then I'll be allowed to come back. And that was all around the same time with the Ferozzo fight with my knee messed up, and Bob being the slickster that he is.
But don't you think it's also just possible that Jerry Bolander got hurt? Because he fought too, right? He fought a fight first, right?
It's possible, but I'm a kind of a
little
cynic.
Conspiracy theorist?
Yeah, a cynic.
I see where you would feel that way. And I think in the early days, one of the things that Dana White does a really good job about is like he kind of he talks to everybody, have conversations with people, sit people down, talk to them, explain this is great, this is not so great, this is what we think we could do with you. Like, no, back then it was chaos.
Yes, absolutely.
It was chaos. And a referee today, they're allowed to stand people up.
Right.
But back then,
no.
That wasn't.
I understand completely what you're saying.
Yeah.
But back in those days, those guys set up a lot of stuff.
What'd they set up?
All right, it won't come to me right off, but I will tell you.
It does. Well, I don't want to put you on the spot.
No.
So you think that they had people that they wanted to win, so they made things work a particular way?